no. I know, I get it. Who wants to listen to this guy tell me I can't ever go on vacation anymore? Yeah, it's not like that. My answer to this question is quite complicated. Let me explain. This isn't the most important pandemic problem, obviously, not even close, but this is a travel channel and these are the little things that I think about, and it seems like you do too. I asked you this question on Instagram: do you think we'll be able to travel this year? And yeah, I breathed a huge sigh of relief realising that we are all like-minded people who have thoughts and opinions on these little pointless things, and most of you seem to be feeling pretty good about getting away in summer or autumn this year. Maybe by fall, cautiously optimistic, hopefully by June or July. And some Europeans said yes, we'll be able to travel, but Europeans within Europe and Americans and Canadians within their countries too. And I mean, if the USA domestic tourism market explodes this year, who can take more credit out of coronavirus and one English boy on YouTube? But most of you are predicting a bit of travel later this year, and I think I agree with that too. I think that's my prediction too. But why do we think these things? What evidence is there? Well, one thing is what the numbers are saying. So the daily number of new cases seems to be going down in a lot of countries, which is good news, finally. And similarly, the amount of vaccinations given out every day seems like it's going up in a lot of countries, which is very nice to see. Now, not every country has the daily new cases of New Zealand, and not every country has the vaccination program of the UK. Not every country has the vaccination program of Israel, the UAE, but after that, not every country has the vaccination program of the UK. But people are naturally looking at these trends and thinking, yeah, if this continues, my weekend away later in the year is looking pretty good, and I think I'd agree with that. But what are the experts saying? I'm not really sure what a travel expert is, but according to the media, you're a travel expert if you own an airline or you work for a travel agent or something like that, which I guess, yeah, fair enough, but also these are people who have a financial interest in tourism coming back as quickly as possible. So funnily enough, they're all predicting that a summer tourism season is right around the corner, domestic first and then internationally later this year. But what are the politicians saying? Now, they have more important things to talk about these days. They don't really care about me or you being tourists or not being tourists, but that whole thing with influencers flying to Dubai about a month ago did provoke a reminder that
people should simply not be travelling.
We have had some politicians, people whose economies benefit from tourism coming back as soon as possible, basically saying get vaccinated and get into my country.
But for those who have been vaccinated, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to travel to Greece.
So I'm being kind of mean about it there, suggesting that it's just a conflict of interest, but this is a serious issue. I mean, 25% of Greece's GDP comes from tourism. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, over 100 million people are directly employed in tourism worldwide, and that's over 10% of the global workforce. And then obviously you have places where that number's higher than the average, like in Mexico or in the Canary Islands, and you have extreme cases like Aruba in the Caribbean. In Aruba, about 89% of people are directly employed in tourism. That gives you an idea of how many people's livelihoods and businesses have been taken away from them by all this. I mean, vaccination passports are kind of a controversial idea to some people, but if they get tourism money back in these places sooner, then I can see why some people would be pushing for them. And some of you even need travel to come back for your job or to get into the uni that you want to get into, and I really hope that that can happen soon and safely for you. We were so lucky to move to Germany between lockdowns, very, very lucky. England does have a date, the 21st of June at the earliest, where if all goes well between now and then, they're saying that they'll remove all legal limits on social contact, which is pretty exciting, and you'd think that travelling will come back pretty soon after that. So my answer here is actually yes, I do think we'll be able to travel this year. I already have my heart set on some good travel and hiking videos around this area in Germany and Switzerland, and I think that's going to be able to happen. I might not be able to pick up that South America trip, but maybe I shouldn't anyway. There's a lot of things that we're allowed to do, that we're legally able to do, but that we shouldn't do because they're not responsible and they're not good ideas. Like, for example, you're allowed to bet your house that England will win the World Cup, but you shouldn't do it. You see what I mean? I've seen some people say that tourism will be open this year for financial reasons, but it might not still be safe. Angela Merkel has questioned the idea of a vaccine passport by saying, well, is there any absolute proof that vaccinated people can't spread it? And it does seem like there is some chance. So some people are saying, well, maybe this could cause a problem. If we go to less economically developed countries when we're traveling, we could bring it and cause a problem for their population where fewer of them will be vaccinated. I can't offer any solutions here. I just hope that everything will only happen once it's actually proven to be safe, and that this won't be an issue and we'll all be nice and safe and responsible about it. Oh yeah, and there's one other responsibility we have, isn't there?
It's forecast the largest drop in emissions ever recorded.
Halted production, halted emissions.
The biggest fall was in China.
The goats are taking over.
The whole Earth is healing thing gave us some good news last year at a time when we really needed some, and it gave us some good memes as well. And supposedly it was because nobody was travelling, everybody was staying at home. I mean, we can quite easily prove that not everybody's staying at home. We'll look at a live flight map from right now in lockdown.
People should simply not be travelling.
But there's no doubt that there has been a reduction in non-essential travel, and therefore a reduction in emissions. According to the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, about 2.5% of all global carbon dioxide emissions are caused by aviation, so that includes passenger and freight. But that's not the whole story, because of non-CO2 emissions and other factors that happen at high altitudes. And estimates of aviation's full radiative forcing, that is its contribution to the whole global warming problem, put that figure at about 5%. Causing 5% of global warming may not sound too bad, but once you consider that most people have never flown once in their life, it starts to sound a lot worse. So how can we travel more responsibly? According to the UK Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, this is the total global warming contributions per passenger mile compared between different modes of transport. So that includes the increased damage of aviation emissions that we just talked about. You can see that domestic flights, cars with just the driver, and both short and long-haul international flights are by far the worst for global warming contributions. Then you have cars with the driver and one other person, and the way more responsible options are cars with 4 people, trains, coaches and ferries. So why am I boring you with all this stuff that your geography teacher told you all those years ago? Well, maybe if we're only going to see US domestic and Europe domestic travel this year, it will be easier to find new, more responsible ways of travelling, and we'll be able to say, yes, I don't feel bad about going on vacation because I'm doing it in a lower emissions way than I used to. But, and yeah, there's always a but with these issues, emissions are not the only problem. Wherever we go, we also bring increased rental prices for actual locals, overcrowding of natural areas and litter and so many other problems. I can't sit here and offer solutions about these things, but I do think that there has been more conversation about responsible tourism and over-tourism in the last couple of years. As with anything, it's all about education, so I have faith that we're all going to rejoin the travel scene more educated and more ready to do so in a responsible way. If European travel was possible and safe this year, I would be so happy, I would be so excited. I have a whole list of backpacking routes that I think would be good to do that you don't need to fly for, and I'd like to make some videos going through some ideas I have to share a bit of post-pandemic travel inspiration. One route in particular I really want to do, it's something I've been talking about since before we went to the US, since before all that. I've sort of put it on a pedestal now. This would be the perfect trip and I would make the perfect video, and it's been at the top of my list for a while, but I just think, do I even want to do it this year? Okay, I can't lie, I probably don't have the money to do it this year, but even if I did, I think maybe I wouldn't want to do it this year, so we're going to talk about that as well. I think that this could be an expensive year for tourism, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, we've all been sat inside all year, so you go and pay whatever you want for whatever you want. I'm just going to sit here and complain for a bit longer, and maybe you agree with me and maybe you don't. I'd love to know. Firstly, I think that the tourism industry and all these companies, train companies, airlines, hotels, restaurants even, they're hurting from a year of lost income, which surely they'll want to make back by setting higher prices. But also, a lot of these companies won't have even survived the lockdowns. So for those that did survive, there's less competition, which of course will lead to higher prices. And for the ones that did survive, they could have higher cleaning expenses now, and they could even be operating at a reduced capacity because of restrictions. Also, when we talk about budget travel and generally taking economy tickets on trains and planes, these tickets, yeah, they're still pretty expensive a lot of the time, but they're only as cheap as they are because they're subsidised by business travel, by first class tickets. And quite often this is where somebody's employer is paying to send them on a trip, so they buy the expensive ticket for them. But if everybody's got used to doing video calls now, maybe they won't be sending people on business trips anymore, so they won't be buying those expensive tickets. That makes things more expensive for us, but then it's good from the point of view of emissions, but then it's bad from the point of view of employment in these industries, and everything is linked, and you see why it took me so long to make this video. But look, the main thing is everybody's been sat inside all year. If tourism is allowed again this summer, it could be a really busy summer, and I really can't blame anybody for that. That's what people are calling pent-up demand. That's this idea that all vacations not taken last year, everybody's going to rush out and go somewhere this year. But I'd actually argue it goes further than that. I think not only has everybody been sat inside all year, but what have they been doing in the meantime? I mean, if they're anything like me, they've been sat watching pre-recorded footage of pre-corona times of people travelling and just dreaming dreaming of the day that they're able to do that again. I think a lot more people have been inspired to travel, either more than they did before or even for the first time. And I think that doesn't just go for beach holidays and city breaks. I think outdoors holidays where people are in national parks and campsites and they're out hiking, you know, what are the advantages of that? You're away from enclosed spaces and you're away from big crowds of people. And that's pretty appealing to people right now. So I think demand for even these things is going to go right up. And national parks in the US had record visitor numbers even last year. And I don't see how that doesn't keep going up and up in the post-corona tourism landscape. And again, what have people been watching in the meantime? I mean, Craig Adams is getting 1 million views a month on YouTube all through the lockdown. That has to be inspiring people, right? I've watched Eleanor Osborne's Pacific Crest Trail series probably 4 or 5 times now and read all about it. And I mean, this is me sat here with no good knees, no good lungs, no money, just sat here in lockdown. I mean, this is ridiculous. So I think that vacations of all kind are going to see more demand this year and that will drive prices up. But what do you think? I'd love to know. Let me know whether you disagree with or you agree with my opinion or you just don't care. And some of you said to me that even though travel might come back this year, it won't be the same because there'll maybe still be some restrictions on social distancing, wearing a mask, and you'll be checking every day to see if certain borders or certain businesses are open and what their restrictions are. And yeah, I could see that happening. Nobody knows at the moment what the rules are going to be. There have been suggestions that mask mandates are going to stay for at least the next year. I think of my last trip that we were so lucky to do at all, but especially at the time that we did it. And I think how it wouldn't be quite the same. Standing near strangers all the time, either socialising or just getting around, would feel very, very different now. And I think I'd probably be quite anxious about checking restrictions of different places all the time. So that might take away some of the light-hearted enjoyment aspect of it, in my opinion. So when I think about a trip idea that I have that I really want to do, if I spent ages saving up that money, would I want to spend it this year? I just feel like maybe this year isn't the year, and maybe a little patience will pay off here. Ultimately though, it depends what travel means to you, what you had planned, and how much your favourite elements of it would be compromised if everything I've said here is true, which it probably isn't. So that's why I said no, but sort of yes. I think we'll be able to travel this year, but to the same extent, in the same way, for the same price, and to have the same amount of fun, I'm just not sure. But like I've said, that probably doesn't actually matter. Whatever we're allowed to do after lockdown will feel amazing. Whatever we're allowed to do and we feel comfortable and safe doing is going to be so good. Seeing family and friends, maybe sitting in a cafe one day, that sounds so exotic right now. I think travel or no travel, whatever we're comfortable to do will feel great, and that's what matters. It's just I think about this stuff and I'm trying to sort of manage my expectations and be patient and justify all these things to myself, and I'm just grateful to have people to talk to about it who care as well. So there's kind of a fourth question here, which is, what about me making videos this year? Good job starting a travel channel and then saying, no, I don't want to do that. Well, firstly, I am sure that there'll be some travel videos on this channel. I mean, if anybody's in a position to keep a travel channel going based on videos within like a 100-mile radius, it's definitely me right here. There's so much to see. But the big picture is I want to dedicate this channel for the rest of the year to showing how I'm preparing, and more importantly, how any like-minded people can prepare for a big year of travel next year in 2022. And if the first part of that is out yet, you can click here to watch it. And in the meantime, follow me on Instagram. I've really enjoyed asking you this question and using your opinions as the basis for the rest of this video. I'd like to do that kind of thing more in future. And yeah, okay. Bye.